Martin Seymour is a co-founder of Xref. He has 20 years recruitment experience across many geographic and market sectors. For 13 years, Lee worked for one of the world's largest specialist recruitment companies. As a result, he understands the demands of employment market and is passionate about pioneering positive change for the long term. As a serial entrepreneur, Lee has identified and successfully leveraged market opportunities to aid innovation in the employment sector. Welcome, Lee.
Cool, thanks for having me.
Okay, Lee, so Xref, great concept, and more important with the hiring that's going on in the pandemic. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, look, Xref was built 11 years ago to tackle how people conducted pre-employment verification. So today we're a global platform that focuses on the automation of verification for pre-employment. So you can imagine, with the world returning to work at the moment, we're pretty busy, and we've actually been very busy throughout the pandemic because most of our work focuses on health, education, not-for-profit, aged care. So yeah, very busy time for us.
Why is it that the pre-employment reference checks are so important, do you feel?
Look, I think if you ask anybody that's ever conducted it, you might have done it yourself. The traditional way that people collect feedback on potential new hires is, and has been for a very long time, arduous. It's fraught with things like fraud, privacy breaches, and sometimes even discrimination. So 11 years ago, we reinvented it. We took the task of referencing off of the employer or the recruiter, and we gave it to the candidate. But there is, people around the world, employers around the world try so many different ways to verify whether they should hire this person or not. But really, the only way to tell if somebody is going to be able to do the job you're hiring them to do is to check whether they've in fact ever done that in the past. And the only way to do that is to speak to their previous managers.
How has COVID changed things for you, Lee?
Well, as a society, wherever you are in the planet, we're very focused on who is within 1.5 meters of us, and as organisations, we're very interested on who is in the lift shaft on their way to our office. So there is a big focus, not just in recruitment, but in society, of who stood right next to us. So, that naturally has lifted the appetite globally for further verification before you invite somebody into your organization. And that's not just references, that's, ID checks. So the three things that organizations need to check is, has this candidate been where they've said they've been? Have they done what they've said they've done? And are they, I know it's surprising, but are they who they say they are? I think, during COVID, we've certainly seen a fair share of bad news stories around the world about people faking their way in to roles, and not just to enterprise clients, but also to, government, education, and aged care. And I think, in our society, as civilians, we want to know that our grandparents or our parents are looked after properly in aged care. I think we should be able to trust our financial advisors, and I think that, when we are moving around our local community, we absolutely need to know that our health workers and our educators are who they say they are. But you would be shocked by the lack of verification that happens. And for us, during the last 18 months to 2 years, we've had 2 royal commissions, one in banking and one in aged care, and it's really upped the bar. So I think, during COVID, we've sort of renewed our focus. But the problem is that organisations are now remote. They're recruiting remotely. They don't get to see the candidates on interview. So they're looking at ways to perform this verification because they can't be in front of them. So they can't check their driving licenses or their passports in person. They can't get necessarily in front of their referees, and they just simply don't have the time. So I think automation and technology is really helping. The number one, the desire to verify better, but number two, do it very quickly and accurately.
All makes sense, Lee. How does 2022 look for the hiring and firing business around the globe?
Well, we have seen a mass migration of talent. Companies all around the world, have filled our newspapers full of stories of letting people go. The UN has told us that there's 600 million people out of work. So right now, just in Australia, there is a huge amount of people looking for roles that haven't worked throughout COVID. But on top of that, there are the people that have worked solidly through the pandemic. But now we are entering, an area that is less uncertain. Those same people are looking for a move themselves. So we're just about to see the biggest migration of talent we've ever seen. We're probably going to enjoy, something similar to the Roaring '20s. But what does that mean for our employers? Well, it's going to be highly competitive. The borders are closed. The talent isn't coming in. There is a big pressure on salaries and reward within organizations. So employers need to be very inventive. Throughout COVID, organizations drew a fiscal line, and everybody under that fiscal line that wasn't a legal challenge were the heads that they lost. What we need to do as organizations is look at the people that have worked with us and find better ways in inviting those superstars back into our organization. And on top of that, we really need to focus on retention. So I think, for Xref, we've certainly been listening to our clients around the world. And over the next 6 months, we're actually launching tools that we built during the pandemic for some of the biggest businesses in the world to allow them to focus a bit more on retention, and certainly provide things like pulse checking services, but also to focus on the people that are leaving them and map out those skills that are departing their business and in some way figure out how to bring them back. So a very exciting time for us, and it's been a journey.
Almost sounds like a seller's market for the employees at the moment, Lee.
Well, look, Michael, we've been pounding the pavement and smashing the phone, trying to convince the employment industry globally for 11 years that the way that we're verifying is archaic, it's arduous, it takes time, and it's unreliable. And it's time for change. You can pop onto Xref today and sign yourself up and take your first reference for free. So there are no excuses anymore. We can absolutely make sure that the people that are coming into our organizations and looking after our children and our elderly are the people that should be there.
All right, Lee Martin Seymour from Xref. Where can they get hold of you, Lee? Where should they look?
Journey over to xref.com, and there's some free tools you can use today without paying anything.
Thanks so much, Lee. I'll send you off my resume.
Thanks, Michael. Cheers.